In the heart of Kentucky's rolling hills, where dirt roads cut through cornfields and church bells ring on Sundays, few would expect to find America's largest homegrown criminal syndicate. But in the late 1970s and 80s, that's exactly where it was hiding. Out of Marion, Nelson, and Washington counties rose a crew the feds would later call the Cornbread Mafia. These weren't mobsters in sharp suits or city gangs flashing colors. They were farmers, hunters, Vietnam vets, and small-town men who grew up working tobacco fields and raising livestock. But when the bottom fell out of Kentucky farming, some of these men found a new cash crop, marijuana. And together, they built an empire. The Cornbread Mafia operated with country cunning. They turned barns into grow houses, hollowed out fields in the middle of dense woods, and used farmland that stretched for miles to hide their crops. They weren't just growing weed in Kentucky. By the mid-1980s, they had operations in at least 10 states, from Minnesota to Louisiana. Rural America was the perfect camouflage. No one thought to look for gangsters in the cornfields. At the center of it all was Johnny Boone, a bearded, larger-than-life figure who became both feared and admired. Locals called him the Godfather of Grass. Boone was a farmer at heart, but he was also a visionary. He saw marijuana not as rebellion, but as survival. Under his leadership, the Cornbread Mafia grew into a tight brotherhood built on silence, loyalty, and small-town code. They didn't talk to police. They didn't betray each other. And for years, that code kept them safe. The feds eventually caught wind of something bigger than a few small-time pot growers. Helicopters spotted fields hidden deep in Kentucky backwoods. Busts in one state started connecting to busts in another. In 1989, after years of undercover work and surveillance, federal agents struck. More than 70 men were indicted in one of the largest marijuana conspiracies in American history. The press called it the Cornbread Mafia. The name stuck, and the legend was born. Here's what made them different. Despite the pressure of facing decades behind bars, not one member became a government informant. In a criminal underworld where deals and snitching are the norm, their silence stunned investigators. To the Cornbread Mafia, loyalty wasn't optional, it was everything. Johnny Boone himself went underground, dodging law enforcement for nearly a decade. For many in Kentucky, his story took on a folk hero quality. To outsiders, he was a fugitive, but to locals, he was a man standing up to a system they felt never cared for small farmers. When Boone was finally captured in 2016, he was nearly 70 years old. To his supporters, he wasn't just a criminal. He was a symbol of defiance rooted in the hills of Kentucky. The Cornbread Mafia left behind a complicated legacy. On one hand, they exposed how rural poverty and fading industries can push ordinary men toward crime. On the other, they proved that organized crime doesn't only thrive in big cities. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, in towns where everyone knows your name. And the last place anyone would look for an empire is a red barn in the middle of a cornfield. Today, the Cornbread Mafia remains a piece of American outlaw history. Their story is retold in books, documentaries, and whispered conversations in Kentucky diners. They remind us that crime has no borders, not of geography and not of class. From inner cities to forgotten farmland, the hustle always finds a home. This was Street Files, the Cornbread Mafia.